The allegations Meghan has made are simply not true. Her account does not reflect what actually happened, and it has led the public to a deeply misleading impression. That version of events has no basis in...
The decision did not arrive with a speech, a balcony appearance, or a grand royal ceremony. It came through a sealed document placed before Prince William inside a silent palace office. One signature transformed years of tension into irreversible action. By enforcing the authority of the 1917 letters patent, the future king stripped Meghan of every remaining right connected to the HRH designation, drawing a line that neither family loyalty nor public pressure could erase. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. William kept one hand beside the pen against the desk. The 1917 letters patent, a royal document created to control who could hold princely titles and styles, had become the foundation for his decision. HRH, meaning His or Her Royal Highness, was more than a form of address. It carried status, access, and official authority. By invoking it, the prince ordered that Meghan could no longer claim, use, reference, or benefit from those rights in royal, charitable, ceremonial, or commercial life. Charles read the final page in silence. The king removed his glasses, placed them beside the file, and looked toward his son without speaking. He understood why the decision mattered. The Sussexes had stepped away from official duty, yet traces of royal styling carried public weight. William's action removed that uncertainty forever. What had been an uneasy arrangement was now a permanent boundary. The room tightened around them. Only 4 people knew the order had been approved, and each understood the danger of a leak. Senior aides received instructions. Palace communications teams prepared exact wording. No private explanation would soften the announcement, and no family statement would hide who had driven it. William lifted the pen. He signed slowly, then slid the document across the desk. The private secretary reached for it and paused. The future king did not look victorious. He looked as though he had shut a door on part of his own family. The order reached beyond a title. Meghan could no longer imply royal endorsement through branding, invitations, charitable partnerships, introductions, correspondence, or future media ventures. The final thread connecting private independence to official royal privilege had been cut. Charles lowered his eyes. William remained still. Before the document could leave the room, one question settled over the palace like a warning. What would Meghan do when she discovered the decision had come not from the king, but directly from the brother Harry could no longer reach? As the sealed order moved through palace corridors, constitutional power gave way to something more dangerous. The wounds binding William, Meghan, Harry, and Charles. Behind the legal language stood 4 people carrying 4 versions of the same family tragedy. William believed he was protecting the monarchy. Meghan believed the institution had never protected her. Harry saw another wall rising between himself and home. Charles remained trapped between the crown he inherited and the son he feared losing forever. The document was formal, but every line carried the weight of a broken family. William felt the pressure before his name became public. As heir, meaning the person next in line to become monarch, he believed royal privilege could survive only when tied to duty. The prince had watched titles, access, and public trust blur together for too long. If status could travel freely outside service, then every rule he hoped to enforce as king would begin weakened. Meghan carried a different wound. To her, the remaining link to HRH, the style meaning Her Royal Highness, was not simply ceremonial. It marked the chapter in which she married into the family, served beside them, and endured judgment under their name. Removing it felt less like clarification and more like erasure. She feared the palace was not closing a legal gap. It was rewriting her place in royal history. Harry received the urgent call while standing in his home office. The Duke listened without interrupting, but his shoulders tightened as each sentence landed. Defending his wife would push him further from William. Staying silent would feel like abandoning her. He asked who had approved the order, and the voice on the line avoided a direct answer. Charles moved slowly through a sitting room after reading the wording. The king stopped beside a family photograph showing both sons in easier years. He touched the frame, then turned it face down. The monarch understood the decision might protect the institution, yet he also knew it could make reconciliation almost impossible. Meghan's phone vibrated moments later. A former royal contact had sent a warning. A constitutional clarification was coming, and her name stood at its center. She read the words twice, placed the phone on the table, and asked Harry whether his father had approved it. His hesitation told her more than any answer could. William had already explained his reasoning to Catherine during a conversation. He insisted the order was not revenge. The future king said unresolved privilege would weaken every decision that followed. She heard duty in his voice, but also hurt. Then an old palace incident resurfaced, and the family understood this decision had begun long before the signature. To learn why William finally acted, the story had to return to one confrontation that turned suspicion into a point of no return. The crisis did not begin on the day William signed the order. Its true beginning came months earlier, when a prestigious international foundation prepared an invitation carrying a phrase palace officials believed should never have appeared. The wording presented Meghan not simply as a former working royal, but as an HRH-linked representative connected to the British monarchy. When the draft reached William's desk, he saw more than a mistake. He saw a warning about what unresolved status could become. William read the invitation again, slower this time. The HRH style, meaning Her Royal Highness, had not been actively used after the Sussex departure, yet its shadow still carried status, access, and public authority. That uncertainty mattered, because outside organizations could mistake personal fame for official royal endorsement. Palace staff had already corrected biographies, partnership papers, and event programs that blurred that dangerous line. The breaking point came through the Meridian Global Humanitarian Summit. Its organizers sent Buckingham Palace a courtesy copy naming Meghan as Her Royal Highness, international representative of the British royal family. The wording was fictional, but the implication was unmistakable. It suggested she still spoke with the crown behind her. William circled the phrase in a briefing room and asked who had approved it. An aide explained that the summit believed the title remained technically available. The prince's expression hardened. He had tolerated confusion before, but this was different. If one powerful foundation used the wording, others could follow, turning uncertainty into accepted practice. Harry answered his brother's call with caution already in his voice. William asked him to demand an immediate correction before the invitation became public. The Duke refused. Meghan had not written the language, he argued, and forcing her to reject it publicly would humiliate her for someone else's mistake. The final minutes unfolded without aids. Harry accused the palace of controlling Meghan even after she had left. William replied that independence could not include borrowed royal authority. Then the argument broke open. The Duke said the institution no longer had the right to define his wife's identity. The future king answered that no individual could use the crown's power without serving it. Silence followed. Neither brother apologized. This was no longer a correction. It had become a test of sovereignty itself. William remained seated after the call ended, staring at the circled words. He pressed the intercom and requested every legal file concerning the 1917 letters patent, the royal rules governing princely titles and styles. That single request set the final machinery in motion. What began as disputed wording now moved toward a confrontation where two brothers, and the women beside them, could no longer avoid the truth. The meeting was arranged without cameras, ceremonial staff, or public statements. William entered knowing the legal review was nearly complete. Harry arrived believing there was still time to stop it. Between them sat years of accusation, grief, and mistrust. No constitutional language could hide the real argument. One brother believed he was defending the future of the crown. The other believed that same crown was preparing to strip his wife of dignity one final time. William closed the door behind them. One security officer remained outside, beyond hearing. The prince had chosen a secluded room inside the royal residence because this was not meant to become another public battle. Harry understood the choice, yet he also understood the warning. Whatever happened next would belong to them alone. The red folder changed the air. William placed it between them but kept one hand on the cover. Inside sat the completed legal review, an examination of what the monarchy could lawfully control. He offered one narrow alternative. Meghan could remain in official records as a former working royal, but every practical, symbolic, and commercial link to HRH would end. Harry pushed his chair back. The Duke accused his brother of turning family pain into constitutional punishment. His voice cracked when he said Meghan would read the order as proof that she had never been accepted. He did not defend a title alone. He defended his wife's place in a family that had once welcomed her before closing around her. William gripped the table. The future king kept his voice low and told Harry that public privilege could not survive through private interpretation. The crown, meaning the authority of the monarchy rather than the physical object, depended on clear limits. Without them, every invitation, contract, and partnership could borrow royal power without royal service. Harry pointed toward the folder and demanded to know whether Charles had approved it. William opened the cover. A handwritten note from the king acknowledged that clarification was necessary, but asked his elder son to attempt one final private resolution before taking action. Harry rose. He demanded that William look directly at him and say Meghan's name. The prince stood as well. He met his brother's eyes and stated that Meghan would no longer possess any remaining HRH rights. Silence crushed the room completely. Harry left without touching the folder. William waited until the door closed, then turned to the final legal page. One recommendation went further than he had planned, reaching beyond titles into protocol, branding, and future royal access. The confrontation had failed. Now hidden legal forces, and the people guiding them, would decide how far William was prepared to go. Royal power is rarely exercised through a single dramatic command. It moves through precedent, private counsel, constitutional interpretation, and the silent agreement of people who understand what must be protected. William may have signed the order, but the decision was strengthened by lawyers, senior courtiers, Catherine's counsel, and Charles's reluctant acceptance. Yet the most important influence did not come from a legal memorandum. It came from a private warning delivered by the king himself. William returned to the legal papers after Harry left. The prince understood that the 1917 letters patent, a royal document controlling princely titles and styles, placed those honors under sovereign authority. Palace advisors argued that the monarch could regulate them whenever confusion threatened the dignity or function of the crown. Their conclusion was firm. Unresolved privilege would invite repeated challenges. Charles remained the sovereign, meaning the reigning head of the monarchy, but he had begun giving his son greater responsibility over decisions shaping the institution's future. The king knew William would inherit not only palaces and ceremonies, but every weakness left uncorrected. Still, allowing the order to proceed felt like closing another road back to Harry. Catherine listened as William explained the case during a private conversation. The Princess of Wales, the title held by the wife of the heir, did not dispute the need for clarity. She warned him that anger could give a necessary decision the meaning of revenge. The future king heard her, but he could not ignore what the lawyers had uncovered. A senior constitutional advisor entered with a restricted briefing. He explained that commercial contracts under review contained language allowing indirect references to royal standing. Those clauses could let companies suggest a palace connection without making a direct claim. Future disputes were no longer possible. They were almost certain. Charles summoned his son that evening. The monarch admitted he feared appearing weak if uncertainty continued, yet he feared losing Harry completely if the action became permanent. Then he delivered the warning William would not forget. An heir could not postpone every painful decision until the crown finally reached him. Some burdens arrived early. The king placed the sovereign's red box between them. The locked case carried official state papers requiring royal attention. Charles kept one hand on it while William watched. Neither man spoke. Then the monarch slowly withdrew his hand, leaving the box before his son. Responsibility had changed hands. William approved the final order. But before the palace could announce it, an aide entered with alarming news. Meghan's team already knew across 2 continents overnight. With secrecy broken and emotions rising, the decision escaped the palace and began producing consequences no advisor could contain. The first shockwave struck before the public knew anything had happened. Phones began ringing across London and California. Draft statements were rewritten. Charitable partners requested clarification. Former aides received urgent messages, asking what the order truly meant. Inside Meghan's home, the legal language felt brutally personal. Inside the palace, William watched a confidential decision transform into an international crisis. The document had not yet been published, but the family was already living with its consequences. Palace staff moved quickly. They instructed official partners to remove every remaining HRH reference linked to Meghan from archived biographies, correspondence templates, event protocols, and future ceremonial records. HRH, meaning Her Royal Highness, carried more than social prestige. It suggested formal standing within the monarchy. Leaving even small traces behind could allow outsiders to imply royal approval where none existed. William reviewed the announcement line by line. The prince insisted it describe the action as a constitutional clarification, not a personal attack. Royal styles, the official forms of address granted by the sovereign, would now be tied directly to active service. He knew why that language mattered. One careless phrase could turn legal certainty into open family warfare. Meghan received the completed wording before release. She read the first paragraph, then stopped. The document did not merely prevent public use of the title. It removed every practical claim attached to it, and excluded her from internal lists granting automatic royal protocol at future gatherings. She would enter not as a working royal, but as a private family member. Harry crossed the room again and again. The Duke was furious that William had proceeded after their private meeting. He considered calling Charles, yet the silence surrounding his father told him the king would not reverse the order. His anger had nowhere left to go except toward the statement waiting on the table. Meghan's advisors presented two responses. One was restrained, confirming that her work would continue without royal styling. The other accused the palace of selective punishment and deliberate humiliation. She reached toward the stronger version, knowing it could ignite the confrontation William seemed prepared to face. For Meghan, the choice carried a brutal public meaning: answer quietly and seem defeated, or answer fiercely and confirm every fear the palace had expressed about separation. Meghan placed the palace letter beside an old wedding photograph. She studied it, folded the document once, and said they had finally written down what they always wanted her to understand. Harry stopped pacing. He asked everyone to leave, then closed the door. The global dispute had narrowed to one private conversation between husband and wife, where anger would compete with the cost of another irreversible rupture. For the first time since the order emerged, there were no palace officials, legal experts, or media advisors shaping the conversation. Harry and Meghan sat across from each other, with both prepared statements on the table. One would ignite another public war. The other would accept the decision without surrendering their dignity. Their choice would not restore a title or repair the family, but it would reveal whether they still intended to fight the monarchy on its own ground. Harry looked at the 2 pages without touching either one. The aggressive statement challenged William's authority and accused the institution of targeting Meghan. The restrained version confirmed that they would continue their work without royal styling, the official use of titles and forms of address connected to the crown. One response promised immediate force. The other demanded a quieter kind of strength. Meghan spoke first. She admitted that the title itself mattered less than the meaning behind its removal. To her, the order reduced years of service, scrutiny, and sacrifice to a technical problem that could be deleted with a signature. She had entered the family believing duty would earn belonging. Now she feared the monarchy had preserved the record while rejecting the person inside it. Harry understood the danger of striking back. The Duke knew a direct attack might revive sympathy among their supporters. But it would also support the palace argument that royal status and independent campaigning could not remain connected. Fighting the order could bind their future forever to the institution they had claimed to leave. Then Harry reached for his phone. He revealed, through an unsent private message saved in his drafts, that he had written to William hours earlier. Meghan asked him to read it aloud. Harry began with anger. He accused his brother of betrayal, coldness, and choosing the crown over blood. But as the words continued, his voice weakened. The message was not truly about HRH rights or constitutional control. It was about losing the brother who had once promised they would face royal life together. Silence followed that truth. Meghan picked up the aggressive statement and tore it in half. She placed the restrained version in front of Harry. The Duke read it once, then approved it without changing a word. No advisors witnessed the decision. Neither of them spoke for several moments afterward. Their response lowered the temperature, but it could not stop what came next. Every broadcaster, newspaper, and royal household would interpret their restraint differently, turning private exhaustion into a test of public judgment. At dawn, the palace would publish the order, and the world would decide whether William's action represented discipline, cruelty, or survival. At exactly 9 o'clock, the palace statement appeared. Within minutes, broadcasters interrupted scheduled programming, newspaper websites replaced their lead stories, and crowds gathered outside royal gates. Some saw William as a decisive future king restoring order. Others saw Meghan being punished long after leaving royal life. Yet one image captured the entire moment. A newspaper held above the crowd outside Buckingham Palace. its front page carrying 5 words that transformed family conflict into history. William stood beside a window as the first report spread. The prince watched his name repeat across television screens, while commentators argued over what the order meant. HRH, the style meaning Her Royal Highness, no longer carried any practical right, privilege, protocol, or official association for Meghan. The palace had removed the final uncertainty under royal authority. Catherine remained near him. The Princess of Wales noticed that he showed no triumph, even when supporters praised his resolve. When Harry's photograph appeared, William lowered the volume. She understood the cost behind the control. The future king had strengthened the monarchy's boundary, but he had also pushed his brother further away. Meghan faced the storm from California. She scrolled through the coverage once, then switched off her phone. Her restrained statement was already circulating, confirming that she would continue her work without royal styling. Yet the loudest headlines reached the public first, turning her silence into defeat before her words could settle. Outside Buckingham Palace, a crowd gathered around a newspaper vendor holding a special edition above his head. The front page declared, "William closes the royal door," above separate photographs of William and Meghan facing opposite directions. Some people applauded, others shook their heads. The image reduced years of pain to one brutal divide. The evening broadcast sharpened the meaning further. A leading presenter called the order the first unmistakable constitutional act of William's future reign. Constitutional meant connected to the rules and authority governing the monarchy. Suddenly, the story was no longer only about what Meghan had lost. It was about the kind of king William intended to become. Meghan's calm response changed the mood. By refusing an immediate attack, she denied the palace the explosive confrontation many expected. Supporters called her restraint dignified. Critics admitted it had transformed scandal into finality. Then William's phone vibrated. Harry had sent one private message. The prince read it alone, and the words forced both brothers toward the truth they had avoided. No correction, statement, or royal ceremony could now restore the trust broken between them both. The world had delivered its arguments, but the final verdict would come from 2 men who could no longer pretend a title was all they had lost. The final message contained no accusation, threat, or demand for reversal. Harry wrote only that he understood the decision, even if he could not forgive the way it had been made. William read the words twice before setting the phone down. The constitutional struggle was finished. Meghan's remaining HRH rights were gone. The palace position was permanent, and no public statement could restore what had been removed. What remained was the human cost of achieving royal clarity. William understood that the order lived beyond the argument that created it. Palace staff updated records, protocol manuals, correspondence rules, and guidance for outside organizations. Protocol meant the formal rules controlling royal treatment, introductions, and access. Meghan's place in family history remained documented, but she held no HRH entitlement, privilege, or authority to represent the crown. Meghan accepted the finality without asking for reconsideration. She chose to build her public identity without royal approval, protection, or styling. That freedom carried pain, yet it also ended the uncertainty that had followed her. The institution could no longer define her through a title, and she would no longer depend on that title to define herself. Harry felt the cost deeply. The Duke had defended his wife, but every attempt to protect her had widened the distance from William. He remained devoted to Meghan, yet he could no longer pretend his bond with his brother had survived unchanged. Love had endured in one direction, while trust collapsed in another. Charles asked whether the order had been fully implemented. The king received confirmation through a palace briefing, closed the file, and said that duty sometimes prevented healing instead of creating it. The monarch had preserved the institution, but he had failed to preserve the family around it. William returned to the office where he had signed the document. The prince opened a drawer, placed Harry's message beside the legal order, and closed it slowly. He destroyed neither one. Both belonged to the history he would carry into his future reign. The decision was not a victory over Meghan. It was not a restoration of unity. It declared that the modern monarchy would protect its authority even when doing so wounded those closest to it. Meghan lost the final rights attached to HRH, yet gained complete independence from royal permission. William strengthened the crown's boundary, yet surrendered another measure of brotherly trust. The monarchy survived by choosing clarity over reconciliation, and everyone involved paid for that survival. The order was signed, the rights were removed, the boundary became permanent. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.